Boa noite, Munson here on tour. It's Good Morning Portugal on tour. We're in Castelo Branco, and it really feels like winter's here now, doesn't it? After that hour that we gained over the weekend, full back over the weekend here, and we will discuss that. Is that a good idea or not? We've got a special guest, Prosecco Peggy, who's agreed to join us. We'll bring Peggy on in a little while. She's a keen gardener in the Algarve. May not have been able to get into her garden just recently. With a little bit of an injury, but I'm sure she's been supervising others in the garden. Let's find out how the team are first, though. Anna, you were on the show this morning. Great to have you back again this evening. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yes, it's been a busy one. I've pretty much had 3 online sessions today, so yes, keeping well, and yes, keep it. Well, from the sound of the rain just a little bit earlier, keeping dry. It was torrential out there, and it looks like it's still going according to my weather forecast on my laptop, saying currently raining now. So glad I'm in the warm and dry, but it's yes, darker, colder, and possibly wetter here at the moment, being autumn, and of course darker evenings with the clocks having gone back at the weekend as well. So yeah, busy time.
Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. John Agates, Senor Ajay, how are you this evening?
Yeah, good. Good, thanks. Yes. It's a bit rainy here, but luckily managed to have a walk earlier on before the rain came properly, so that's good. Yeah, not too bad, good. I don't think.
Glad you're well. Glad you're keeping safe and warm. Head Gardener McGrady, looking a little bit like the BFG, taking refuge in his cave this evening in Lisbon. How are you this evening, Lee?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Had a nice weekend. Pitch black outside, but apart from that, everything's good. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, and we're thinking of a new feature called Lee McGrady's Down to Earth Wisdom, and we want to ask you about what you think about the hour that the fallback hour of this weekend, and also what you think of Halloween. We are being sent Halloween wishes. I wonder if it's safe to go there. Saying earlier on, it's a good way to get banned off YouTube. Happy Halloween from Oregon. Let's say a few hellos while we're here, and then we'll say hello to Castelo. Not to Castelo Branco. Well, you want to say hello to Castelo Branco this evening. Take a look at the podcast I just recorded, specifically for the podcast listeners. They're the Cinderellas of Good Morning Portugal. This is an exclusive for them over on Spreaker on the podcast. If you're not a subscriber already, there's your chance to do it. The sound birds. We will also talk about this, but that's a way of connecting with Castelo Branco this evening. It's been amazing to be here for the last couple of days. And to answer your question, where are you? Louise, it's a whistle stop, back-to-back partying in shows, it feels. We're off to Halloween party in just a moment, and then straight back to the Silver Coast in the morning. So it's been amazing, and we will be heading home tomorrow. Good evening to you, Louise, and to Pete as well. Hey, Pete, lovely to see you all team as well. And T-Duck is here. Tudo bem, amigos jardineros. Desculpe, look at this. He's given up on you, Lee. There are no now haverá piadas para Lee esta noite. No gardening jokes for Lee. You've broken him. I think Lee may have won that, at least the first round anyway. We've not been able to make him giggle about any kind of dad / gardening jokes. Hola, boa tarde, garden gang. Thank you, Victoria, for your lovely pictures this evening. And what's this, Pete? I have missed seeing John's awesome stuffed animals. So glad to be back seeing John's awesome stuffed animals. And we're going to get... Peggy, you ready to join us? You look like you're having dinner. Peggy, you're all right. Can you give me a thumbs up if you're glad to be brought onto the screen? There you go. Double thumbs up. Yeah. Were you tucking into your supper there, Prosecco Peggy? Great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How about you?
Good. Well, we're very well, and thank you for trying to get hold of me. I saw you call me again this afternoon. I thought, Prosecco Peggy, if I remember rightly, she loves a bit of gardening down there in the Algarve. So why not join us? Everybody, meet Prosecco Peggy. So tell us about your gardening adventures, Prosecco Peggy.
We got very, very lucky. We got a large house with a large lot for gardening, and I have about 100 dahlias. And we dug up the entire front yard, and we have succulent beds and cacti. And my husband says his life has been subjugated to digging and planting.
Oh, so that's who you're supervising these days.
Yeah, well, mostly I have been out in the yard on my crutches
Okay.
because they require a good cleaning afterwards. But
So yes, we should explain, shouldn't we? Unfortunately, you had a break, didn't you? A breakage, and you've been out of action in some ways, but clearly not others. Tell us what happened.
I tried to do a pirouette off the 2 bottom rock stairs in the back, and I did not stick
wow.
the landing and
Oh,
fractured my
oh,
leg. So I've been laid up for 6 weeks, but they slowly loosened the chain and said you can put some weight on it, which I took to mean I was free as a bird.
that doesn't surprise me at all, Peggy.
I know. So off I have gone with my poor husband trailing behind me, trying to keep me from falling on my head again.
Oh my goodness, you're keeping him busy, aren't you? Incredible.
I am.
And yeah, you're right. You're right, Peter. Looks like the weather has cleared up just in time. It was peeing down here in Castelo Branco for sure. Has it been wet in the Algarve, Peggy?
Oh yes. Today it was very, very wet. It sort of comes in spurts. It'll pour and then be sunny, pour and be sunny.
Yes, just like that here. How about Lisbon, Lee?
Same as, exactly the same.
Yeah. People are loving seeing you here tonight. Jean is saying "Hola, boa tarde" to us. Astoros, nice one, Jean. And we've got Louise, who has missed your view of life. This is fantastic. A lot of us have, I think, Peggy. Hi, Peggy. We've missed your view on life and your wisdom. So stick around, if you will, for a little while this evening. If you've got gardening questions, Peggy, you can ask that of Lee and the group and people tuning in. But I'm sure you'll be able to answer a few questions as well. And Pete, happy to see you. Lovely to see you, Peggy. Victoria, I'm not just down the road from you.
Hi, Victoria.
Go on.
Love it. Everybody sign in.
Feel better soon. Not much rain today in Portimao. Look at that. It's nicely abbreviated down to PTM. And Pete is asking you, specific request for Peggy. She's stealing the show already. Have you got any tips for my mate whose sheep broke his ankle last week? I'm sure he's not happy with them. How did you cope with traction, Peggy? This is not a medical show, is it, Lee? But anyway, go on, Peggy.
Ice really helps the pain and the swelling, and what helps the swelling will help the pain. So I suggest icing 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off.
I absolutely agree. Ice helps the pain if you mix it with a bit of whiskey.
Yes, and that'll be 35 euros, please.
There you go, Pete. Hi, Peggy, says OLP as well. Excellent. What a brilliant idea to have you on tonight, Peggy. From the OLP greeting. Hi, Peggy. Not so nice to see you. Sorry to hear your reaction, but so happy you're on the mend. I think we can all get behind that comment there. Absolutely right. Cheers, OLP, for saying that. Okay, I think we can kick off with the question. Thanks, everybody, for sending in photos as well. I'm going to do my best to download those. But I think we've got quite a big question, haven't we, to get our way through. Anna, if you want to start with that. Peggy, we would welcome your sage advice too from your gardening experience.
Yes, it looks like we've mostly got questions from Michelle, I think, who's in the Caldash area. And it says Reina/Oberdos area. The first one is, where can we buy mulch and can we have it delivered?
I think we kind of covered this last week. You need to get in with the local tree surgeon or a horticulturalist. They'll know where they can access it. And if you speak really nicely to the guy with the wood chipper, he'll even drop it off for you for a few euros. But it's not easy to come by in Portugal. It's not as cheap as back in the UK.
I don't know what part they're in, but we get it from the person who supplies our firewood.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And mulch, I mean, can we clarify that for everybody? What is mulch? And are there different kinds of mulch?
There are different kinds of mulch. Mulch is technically it's wood chippings. It's left over from. It can be furniture makers. It can be tree surgeons. It's that kind of. It's like a broad name for it. And you can get bark mulch, which is like a play mulch, so there's no splinters in it. That's great for the kids to play on as well. So there's hundreds of different variations of it. It depends where you get it from, but it's just wood chippings, really. It's like a broad name for wood chippings.
Okay. All right. Forgive me for these notifications coming through from WhatsApp. We're on tour. We're using a different computer, and it makes noises when we're trying to download the pictures. So, there was an overlap on the questions last week, wasn't there, about mulch and chippings and pellets and so on? But I think, could you remind us who this is again, Anna? This long list of questions that we're very glad to answer.
This is from Michelle, who's in the Caldas.
Michelle. Okay, so let's carry on with Michelle's list because I think these are of general interest to people. That's the mulch question dealt with. John, have you got something to add there before we go further into this list?
Yes.
I think there's something funny about you, sir.
Bark mulch is used as safety in play parks because its bark is worse than its bite.
Oh my
God. You see, okay, I can laugh at John's jokes because he makes them up himself. John's jokes are funny because that's off the top of his head. They're the ones I can laugh at.
All right. Anna, back to you. Thank you. Please restore some semblance of order here.
Next one I've got down is, where can we buy banana plants?
Nice question.
They're dead easy and they're dead cheap. If you go to a good size garden centre, they will have them in. And if they don't, they'll be able to order you some in. But they're actually quite easy to split as well. So if you've got a neighbour that has a banana plant, if you go and ask nicely, they'll have some little shoots coming off the base of it. And you can easily take them out and you can transplant that shoot and it'll become a full tree. So if you know somebody with a banana plant, be very nice to them. Or go to your local garden centre. If you struggle with that, have a look for a company called VI Plants. They're across Portugal. And I know they definitely stock them. So find your local VI Plants.
VI, good to know. Nice little tip there. Peggy, have you got any banana palms or any other palms in your garden?
I've got lovely neighbors who have banana plants, so I have more bananas than I need. I don't need a plant.
Hold on a minute. Do you actually get fruit as well? Are they fruit?
I'm sorry?
Do they fruit in the Algarve?
The banana trees, yes.
Yeah. Do they? Wow, I thought you had to go as far as Madeira.
No. We have more. I have to freeze them. They bring over so many. I have to freeze the bananas.
That's fantastic.
I've seen a couple of banana plants in. I've seen a couple of banana plants in Lisbon that actually fruit.
Wow.
There's one that I've seen one right in the city centre that's up against the building. That fruits every year. And there's one near where I live in Kalouche, and that's in the garden of a club for older gentlemen where the old guys spend their afternoons. And again, that's up against a wall, so it gets lots of heat from the building, and that just saying that fruits every year as well.
That's amazing. Victoria's doing great with bananas here. Yeah, our bananas drop babies fast. Yes, our bananas will have fruit, and we can go to Kate as well. Actually, this evening, I can't remember if you got a banana palm in your garden, Kate. But great to see you here. How are you doing? We have some good recovery going on here, I think, in our community this evening, and weather from the Oregon area via OLP, of course, raining quite nicely here in Northern Oregon. I always love to hear about people's weather. Hi, Kate, says T-Duck. And T-Duck, maybe you need to speak to John for a bit of material. And we'll come back to your question, Pete. Thank you very much for that. Botardo Toros and Andrew Portuguese, Lord Gilchrist is in. Question for Peggy coming up later. This is great. Thanks for all the questions. And Victoria, thank you for your pictures. We'll show those later. But let's carry on with Michelle's list. Bananas, VI plants, or be kind to your neighbours, or go pop to the Algarve. What's next, Anna?
The next one, this one seems to ring a bell from a while back, but we think we'll be producing quite a lot of ash from our pellet stove. How much can we use in our garden, and what are some of the best ways to use it?
You won't be producing that much ash from your pellet burner this year because the bags have gone up to €10 a bag. It's gone ridiculous. Last year they were $3.90 at Leroy Merlin. They're now €10. The price has gone through the roof on them. But yeah, they're great to use around the garden. It is extortion. It's exactly that. It's somebody's making money on it. Around the base of all your fruit trees, it's perfect. Dug into your veg beds, it's perfect. Even around your flower beds, just to give it, because the soil here in Portugal is so bad, just to give it a bit of body so it holds a bit of water better. Ash is perfect in the Portuguese gardens. So everywhere you can use it. Yeah. There are a few plants that don't like it, but
all right,
you don't want those plants in your garden anyway.
They don't like
That's simple advice. Okay, Anna. Yeah, Peggy, not a fan of them either. So yeah, carry on, Anna. What's Michelle got for us next?
Where can we find or order wild bird seed?
Yeah, we've come across this before. I wouldn't really bother. Actually, if you're going to do it, I wouldn't bother with a wild bird seed because it's expensive. It's expensive in Portugal, and it's pointless because the birds don't enjoy it. The birds don't take it. But if you go to your local cooperative, they'll sell chicken feed, which is just as good for the wild birds, and is dirt cheap. So rather than going and spending a small fortune on Amazon to get wild bird seed, which is really the only place you're going to get it in Portugal, is to order it. Go to your local cooperative and just get chicken feed, because they'll appreciate that just as much. If you've kept chickens, you'll know that the small birds come in and steal it all the time.
They do. Our chickens have attracted so much other wildlife into our garden. It's absolutely beautiful. On the matter of birds then, for a moment, because I put this recording of the birds absolutely going, well, they're so noisy and raucous in the square here in Castelo Branco. I suggested to Lee before we came on air that they're doing that because they're just about ready to go. Lee, you say they're arriving here, and what, are they establishing their social order by being noisy?
Well, it could be either. It could be the birds that are preparing to leave to migrate, and it could be the birds that are just landing. So our birds will go further south, and new birds will come in from the north. Happens every year, so it could be one or the other. There are always some static birds that will stay here all year round. You get that occasion in England, but the majority of birds, even the smallest birds, do have a migratory mindset and do like to travel. So I was just saying earlier before the show came on, my little robins appeared maybe 3 weeks ago. Not seen it all the way through summer. She's finally turned up, so it's nice that I keep saying it's the same bird because I think it's cute if it was, but it's just that time of year.
Softy, really, aren't you? Beneath that brusque exterior, Lee, and you've got your own robin there, and you say that the journey time is 4 weeks. They've measured for a tiny little bird like that to migrate, for example, from the United Kingdom back to Europe again.
Well, that was one of the studies that I followed when I took a bit of interest in it, and they were ringing birds on the Scottish borders, blue tits, coal tits, and bullfinches. I think are the three main ones. And I know that one of them was, I think, was netted in Spain, and it was ringed, and that had been 4 weeks from being ringed to being caught in Spain. And for such a small bird, you know, that's an amazing distance to cover. Maybe 1,400 miles. It's incredible. It's quite a good, yeah. But I mean, if you look at if you look at the bigger birds like the ospreys and the booted buzzards, they're big birds, and they can be in England on one day, and they can be in Germany 2 days later. You know, because you just get up in the currents and just drift with it. You know,
Wow.
they really do travel long distances in such short times.
Stephen's on form today. It used to be 4 weeks. Well, it is 4 weeks now, but it was only 2 before Brexit. Very good. Okay, and Lord Gilchrist has got a lot of green parrots in the capital there as well. Parakeets, they're quite the species, aren't they? They don't bother to go anywhere. I think they're there all the time, aren't they? And rumour has it you like a cockatoo
they're not
as well, Gilchrist.
They're not actually native birds, are they? The ringneck parrots that are here and the same as the ones that are in London. They've been imported and released, so they're not migratory birds because they're not technically Portuguese wildlife. They're an invasive species.
They're very happy in the city. It would appear.
Well, I have a bit of an issue with it because people are happy to see them and are happy to feed them, but they take up nest spaces that should really be available for other birds like the woodpeckers. We had a great tree in my local reserve back in Manchester, and I couldn't walk past it with the kids without having to go over and hit the tree with a big stick in the evenings, because you would get an old woodpecker nest, and when you hit the tree, you can get a dozen ringneck parakeets that come out and fly away. So they do take up nesting spaces, and they do take the food that should be there for the native birds. So I'd realistically like to see them culled a little bit more than being done.
And how would that be done, if I can dwell on that grisly option for a moment? Would a bird of prey be taking them out?
Well, no, they're actually quite easy to net. They're quite easy to trap because they're not very intelligent. You could use ground net traps for them, which is what they started to do in London in the 80s before they were stopped by the animal rights activists.
At this point, he's been describing expats.
Pardon?
Go on, Peggy, say that again.
I said up to this point, he's been describing expats. We've come from far away, and we take up nests, and we're pretty easy to trap.
Yeah, we are quite easy to trap. I'd be fine having a beer, and I'd dive into the trap head first, knowingly.
Excellent.
Pete, at the moment, we made the mistake with the grey squirrel to let it go too far before we could sort the problem out. At the moment, the ringneck parakeets are still in numbers where they could be controlled, and we didn't do it with the grey squirrels. We should have learnt our lesson, and we should be doing it with the ringneck parakeets now. Yeah,
fascinating. In Amsterdam as well, says Bob, who's recently there. And Pete, bit more bird life. I mean, people love talking about bird life here on the show. It's always lovely to hear. We had a very confused stork come back to the nest yesterday, but loving the baby partridges hopping all over the land. That sounds nice, Pete. And lots of woodpeckers over that way too, just down the road from here. In fact, you saw one last time you came. We love the eagles and vultures, though. Have a nesting pair of eagles in a tree this year. And down in the Algarve, Peggy, of course, you get lots of storks down there, don't you? Nesting in all the pylons and everything.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's amazing when you see them for the first time. They're extraordinary, huge creatures, aren't they? If you're
flamingos have returned.
Oh, how lovely! Very good. I'd love to see some flamingos. Not seen a flamingo yet.
We actually have flamingos in Lisbon. If you're in the city centre, just across the river, there's some marshland there, and there's flamingos on the marshland there. I think they're the furthest north recorded nesting is here in Lisbon. Yeah.
I would challenge that. I mean,
which takes us back.
No, you're okay. I would challenge that, taking us back to Michelle's questions, because she's in the Obidos area, and on the Obidos Lagoon there are flamingos, but maybe they don't nest. Is that what you're suggesting? There's a difference between appearing.
I actually read it in an article last year, and it said that they were nesting and had produced chicks, and they are the furthest north in Europe to produce chicks. Yeah, so maybe they are up. Well, they will be up there. They'll be further north, but they're not producing yet. But they'll get there.
Yeah,
it's just a natural progression. Yeah.
All right. Talking of progression, how are we doing with Michelle's list, Anna?
We've got this one. We have an opportunity to use horse manure. How can we use it in our garden? Can we use it in our vegetable planting area? Can we use it right away in the garden?
Can you use it? I missed the very last bit, Anna. Sorry.
It was opportunity to use horse manure. How can we use it in the garden? Can we use it in our vegetable planting area? And can we use it right away in the garden?
It's the last bit. I don't understand what.
Well, go on, Peggy. While we've got Lee breaking up a bit.
You're really breaking up, but if she can hear me, it does really wonders for your fruit and nut trees. The horse manure.
Can you hear me now?
Give it another go, Lee.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Manure's fantastic. You don't want to use it too fresh though. You want to let it sit for a little while. You don't eat straight from the horse's mouth or back end. And you don't want too much straw. You don't want too much straw in it either. You want it to be sort of a good 50-50 mix of manure and straw. If it's too fresh, it's a little bit too strong. But yeah, it can be used on veg patches. You can get it into the soil anywhere in the garden. And like Peggy was saying, it's great for nut trees. It's great for fruit bushes. It's great for everything, really. There are some delicate plants, like your bedding plants, where you might want to use it a little bit. You still use it, but use a little bit less of it, so you're not covering the soil. But if you've got enough for your veg beds, I would just cover the whole veg bed with it and let it rot in, because it does wonders for soil. And it brings loads of little red worms, and that's what you really want. You want the worms that come with it, because they're great for building soil.
Brilliant. Okay. Let's just take a little detour to the Algarve. Let's stay with Peggy and Victoria in the Algarve. Thank you for answering the horse muck question. We got some lovely, well, what are these? Succulents, I believe. And you were saying, Peggy, you also have succulents in your garden. I need to go to Victoria's message to us, which is I have repotted my succulent collection into three gorgeous handmade pots from Brazilian artists based in Guimarães. So this is a lovely bringing together a mashup of. I haven't been able to get all of your pictures downloaded because there's a lot of them, Victoria. But maybe I'll post them elsewhere. Maybe on the website. It's quite slow downloading things. If I bring these onto the screen, you'll see what Victoria's talking about. Very, very beautiful colors here. So the Brazilian artists are based in Guimarães, gorgeously glazed terracotta. These succulents have been collected from over time. So you've been collecting these from the wild then, or from other growers. And the website for the pottery is aimboutique.pt. So I'll definitely make a news story of this for the Gumper News Desk. Another treasure we brought as well home from the festival. Oh, this Anna was asking about festivals. This is the Estói Festival where you've been over the weekend, Victoria. And a treasure that you've brought from there this weekend was this anthurium, although it was imported from the Netherlands. So we've got a picture of an anthurium.
Anthurium.
Coming up onto the screen. Yes, that's a red lily, though, isn't it? Isn't that what you'd call that? A red peace lily?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the red. So anthurium. These are fantastic. We'll definitely post that with that lovely show of colour there, Victoria, as a news desk item. Thank you for those beautiful pictures. Your succulents, Peggy, tell us about those. How have you grown your succulent collection?
I buy them when they're very, very small. I keep them in a large, shallow terracotta pot out in the yard until they get bigger and can be transplanted into the dirt. My entire front yard is succulents, except for a few bulbs that come up here and there. Mostly it's succulents because I never knew there were so many kinds of succulents. And I never knew they all bloomed and had such beautiful blooms. And now is the time of year that they start blooming. And my yard is just ablaze with colors from all these. Sorry, my lamp's about to fall. different succulents.
Yeah, amazing. So that's been a new part of your gardening awareness, having moved to Portugal.
Yes, yes, but I buy them at the cactus store when they're little tiny things and cost about €1 a piece, and keep them in a terracotta pot, which I have in the half sun, half shade until they have a chance to establish and get bigger. And when they do that, then they can move on to the intermediate nursery.
Oh, wow.
But
Very organized.
they are just incredible numbers and variety of succulents that you can get from these succulent and cactus stores, or any garden store down here has a tremendous number of succulents, and they may look small right now, but the majority of them grow very, very fast in this Algarve climate. I don't know about the rest of Portugal.
Wow, thank you for that.
But
Lee, so go, like, in the same way that we described, or you described what mulch was, succulents is a word that does get thrown around a lot in the garden. We're talking about cactuses, cacti, but we're also talking about the aloe veras and the things with waxy leaves, and also the prickly pear. These are things that you do see a lot in Portugal, right?
Yeah, again, it's a broad spectrum name, the succulent, but Peggy's doing it absolutely spot on. She's doing it how I like to do it. You buy them small, you let them develop, and then you put them out. Because what Peggy buys for €1, if you want something to go straight into the ground, could cost you up to €40. So you're saving money, but you also get the enjoyment of seeing it grow, which is what gardening should be about. So I really like the idea of what Peggy's doing of saving money by buying the small ones, letting them grow, seeing how they develop, and then you get to know the plant before you put it out into the garden. It gives you time to think about it and plan where you're going to put it. So yeah, she's doing really well. Perfect way of doing it.
Great job, Peggy. Great job, Peggy. What else have you learned from coming? You've obviously loved gardening, and you've been gardening for a little while. What else have you learned since moving to Portugal?
Oh, I have learned so much that snails just drive me bat crazy. I can tell you.
Bat crazy. You can say it if you want.
But I have finally found something going to a co-op store that I can put out that has been finally successful with the snails. And I don't have it here, so I don't have the name to tell you what it is. But it finally works on the snails because they do love my dahlias, and they do love the cactus and the succulents too up front. They're just the society, except when I gather enough big ones up for my French neighbor. But they're the thorn in my snails.
You can't do that. Yeah, you can't say I've got the cure for snails and then, oh, sorry, I can't remember what it's called.
But you just texted me 10 minutes before the show went on.
Yeah, okay. All right. My bad. All right, we'll get that from
send
you.
the photo for next week. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to join us from time to time again. You've been brilliant tonight.
I'll send Carl a photo and
excellent.
And I actually attached to the show via my phone. Otherwise, I don't know how to send you pictures, or I can send you pictures of my.
That's another job. That's all right. That's another job for your husband later on. Don't worry.
Like he computer. I have dahlias bigger than my hands, and they're just so beautiful.
Oh, I'd love to see. Love to see those. Love dahlias. One of my favorites. Brilliant. Okay, do send those to us, Peggy, and we'll feature them next week for sure. We've got jalapenos to talk about from Jean, and there were some other questions. So I'll look for those while you give us the rest of Michelle's question, if you don't mind that, Anna.
Yeah, I think this is the last one, and then a few other ones have come in as well. The last one I have for Michelle is we would like to keep our cats out of the vegetable planting area, and looking for any natural repellents we might use.
Big dog, a big dog, or a cooking pot. You're not going to be
Cooking pot.
Yeah, kill the cats, cook them, and feed them to the smaller dogs. If you
totally.
go to Leroy Merlin, they do sell a cat and dog repellent. It's a granule mix. It's about €20 for a small tub. It does work to a degree, but they kind of get used to it after a while. Apart from that, full netting over all the vegetable garden is the only real way, because cats, they go where they want to go, and you can't stop them.
And they like to leave you a present. They like to leave you a present, don't they?
Well, that's part of the problem with your vegetable patch, because the soil is so soft and so nice. It's perfect for cats to do the business in. So
it is. It's like for us,
try the cat.
Having multiplied.
Yes, quilty toilet paper for a cat. Yeah,
exactly.
So Leroy Merlin, granule dog and cat repellent, or a full netting system, which is a bit overkill, but it is the only way to keep them off. And I'm sure they'd find a way, because cats are just a nightmare.
There you go. As Jean says, cats will cat. And Peggy, says Bob. Bob's just realised you're here, Peggy. We've missed you, Bob and Viv. Excellent. Right. There's a few quickies here, aren't there? John, Anna, if you've seen anything that's come up, do shout it out, because I think we need to help Jean with the jalapenos, don't we? We'll go to that first. If you could look for anything else that's coming that I might have missed, John and Anna, I'd be most grateful to you both. Jean, I could not find jalapeno peppers. They're just in Portugal, because they're not difficult to find here. I wouldn't have said any farmer market or grocery store. Do you have them in Portugal? Can I get seeds? I know international agricultural rules can be strict about what is allowed. Jalapeno is not a problem, Lee or Peggy, is it?
No, it's not a problem at all. And if you can't actually find the plants, or you can't find the packaged seeds, just go to the supermarket, buy it, and take the seeds out, because they'll grow just as well as packaged seeds. They are quite vigorous growers, so you should have no problem. Even if you go to the supermarket and buying one, just for the seeds inside it, shouldn't be an issue.
And now's the time. Yep, now's the time. We've got a load of chilies in our garden, and green peppers and red peppers.
Yep.
It's a beautiful time of year for the chilies and the peppers. Have you seen anything else there, Anna or John?
Just remember to label your Ziploc bags in the freezer.
And wash your hands after you've been shopping.
With your jalapenos.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, label them up and wash your hands. Okay, look at this. Look at this, Prosecco Peggy. We remember, Peggy, from when we first began considering Portugal. How lovely is that? Fantastic. And mongoose as well. Mongoose keep any cat issues down around here. I suppose they do. Cats want to stay indoors, don't they, in an environment of that kind? Any more questions then, Anna or John? Have you seen anything there?
I think there's one from Pete and one from Andrew, I think. And Andrew was saying about the having repotted a kumquat. When does the fruit ripen?
It really depends. I know Andrew will be doing his in an apartment, so it really depends on the temperature and the amount of light it's getting. If it's already in fruit, he needs to move it towards the window, because we're getting the shorter daylight hours now, and it's going to need as much light as possible. So more light, the better. But it really depends on the heating, the soil you've got it in, because it's a container plant and it's in the apartment. It throws the plant out of sync. So it's not like a natural growth pattern that we'll have outdoors. So move it into an open window, and maybe restrict the water a little bit. If it's got fruit already, you want it to ripen, just lessen on the watering, because that'll force the plant to start to ripen.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You said there was another one there. Did you say there was one from Peter?
Any tips on what to plant out aside from brassicas for the veg patch this time of year?
Onions. Get your onions in, spinach in, Radish will still do. You can still get some carrots going. You could possibly, I know I said it last week, but if you'd have got them in last week, you'd be okay. If you get the small plugs of the lettuce, they'll still have enough time now to be up and going before it really kicks into the dampness. And if you keep them covered with a plastic sheet, when we get the heavy rain, that'll protect them and keep them going even longer. So there's still quite a lot you could do.
Okay, superb. Good to know. Thank you for those quickie questions there, folks, and thank you for answering them, Lee. Guess what? Possibly citrus problems for Phil and Maria. So I've got a picture. I don't know how closely you'll be able to zoom in on this, but Peggy might know a thing or two about citrus. I imagine you do have a little bit of experience with citrus down there in the Algarve, Peggy. So I'm just going to put that on now. I'll describe it for you.
I probably only know the answer. It's gone crazy the last few weeks with the citrus, so go on.
All right, so here's the picture coming up on the screen now. Peggy agreeing with you, I think. Come on, computer, you can do this. There it is. There it is. Discoloration and curly leaves. It would appear.
I sent you a video of my citrus that look exactly like that. Minus the curly leaf bit. It's just the time of year. We've had really a really dry summer, which has affected the citrus trees, and now they're producing lots of fruit because we've had this great rainfall. So there's trees getting really stressed, and a lot of trees are now shedding fruit to get rid of the excess fruit that they can't cope with. So the trees are just under strain at the moment. If you pick up everything that falls, because I mean, as it's falling, it's starting to rot right away. So you'll be picking it up and moving it to stop any kind of fungal infections, unless you can mow it in regular, you know, and break the fruit down with a lawnmower.
All right.
But unfortunately, it's just the weather and the time of year. They will pick up. They will look better come winter time. We've got fruit that's on the tree. We've got fruit that's ripe now, and it's far too early. It's early by weeks, you know. So it's just been a strange. It's been a strange, not a strange summer, but we've had the extremes of weather, and it's just stressing the trees out.
Okay, all right.
So
There you
don't
go. Fear
panic.
not,
It's
Phil.
not a big problem.
But we feel his pain, don't we? We've gone through it with him in the last few months, these trials and tribulations of his new garden. So our hearts are with you there, Phil. But hang on in there, as Lee is saying. Jean, thank you for this information on the poison ivy soap that is called Technu, that works by removing the oil. It also works for jalapeno oil as well, taking out the those oils, I guess, where all the heat and the poison is. That's good to know. We're just coming to conclude now. John's got an announcement, and we'll give a last word to Peggy as well. We were sold copper sulfate for our trees, citrus or otherwise. For the fungus, it is good, safe, and does it stain white garden walls? So is it good, safe, and does it stain white garden walls with copper sulfate? Can you answer that one, Lee?
It is really good, but they shouldn't be buying it without a license. Copper sulfate is very dangerous. And if it's not used properly, then you're not just going to hurt yourself, you're going to hurt the tree, and you're going to hurt the environment around you. So be very careful with it. Not something. It's something I use in my arsenal, but I use it very irregularly. It has to be a real issue for me to get the copper out. Too much of it can kill anything, including yourself. So just be very careful with it.
Best off keeping that in the lab. John, you might have to go. So do you want to make your announcement about next week's show or not, as the case may be?
Yes, I will. So if you're a regular viewer, then you'll know that we don't do a show on the first Monday of the month, which, of course, as today is the 31st of October, next Monday will be the first Monday of November. So no show next Monday. And then we'll be back broadcasting in 2 weeks' time.
Good on you, John. Thank you very much. Thank you for what you've done tonight. I understand if you've got to go. Peggy, then, it's so enjoyed seeing you tonight. Louise, very grateful to all of us. And a question from the OLP, just a quickie. Peggy, did you buy your dahlia tubers in Portugal? Oh, you're muted, Peggy. You've muted yourself there. Or did I mute you? Let's try it. Okay, try. There you go.
Probably did it. I like to buy them from uh, Fancy Grace. It's an online. They come directly from Holland. It's a damn Brit. I mean, it's a British.
We heard that.
But they ship them from Holland. They're so they do come from Holland, and they have the best, the very, very best tubers. I did bring some about 6 years ago from the U.S. when we came, but I get them now from this Fancy Grace store, and I will give that information when I send Carl the pictures to put up. I'll send him the link to the store where I get all my tubers, and the tubers are fantastic, just fantastic.
You're the best. You're the best, Peggy. Okay, well, we need a page on the Good Morning Portugal website for all these lovely gardening tips and photographs. So we'll do that. I'll make that happen. And we'll get back to you as well, Bob, on your question about alternative to copper sulfate, because we've run out of time tonight, except to say thank you so much, Peggy. And then a couple of quickies for Lee, who gets the last word as the head gardener. So daylight saving time, good or bad idea, Lee? Down to earth wisdom from Lee McGrady.
I'm an early bird, so I quite like having an extra light in the morning, and I like to drink at night, so I like to drink in the dark as well. So I quite like it. So.
You like it, okay, all right, but you weren't.
I don't mind it. Yeah.
Okay, but you weren't surprised to see the government were taking something else away from us, including an hour from last weekend.
The government steal everything else. Why not steal our time? Is what I actually
exactly. Say. And finally, on the matter of down to earth wisdom from Lee McGrady, trick or treat.
It annoys me. It annoys me tremendously. I dislike all things American. And Halloween is just another cash grab. Oh, it sickens me.
Well, how about we leave that hanging in the air there as we say thank you to everybody who's tuned in this evening, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. Peggy, we love you. Come back soon. Ciao, ciao. Great job, Anna. Thank you very much, Gardener McGrady. Happy Halloween, everybody, apart from Lee.